OGaccountability.com.
I became stagnant for so long that there was no growth in my life. There was no growth financially. There was no growth spiritually. There was no growth mentally. I was just stagnant. So as we grow, I think that we need to adopt the thought process that just because I grow in number, meaning I just get older in age, does not give me any clarity in life. It doesn't magically keep me exempt from problems or things that are going to come my way. That if you don't choose to grow mentally just because you're growing in numbers, you just become an older person with the same problem you had when you were 20 years old, 15 years old. They just don't vanish. Actually, if you don't address them, they just become bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why you see these jack donkeys that people call Karens and Kens that are at restaurants and stores and parking lots jumping all over and yelling at people because they have not grown. Everything revolves around them.
Yeah. What is that? Why are we seeing? I don't think it's just because there's more cell phones and so we're just seeing what was always there. I think there's a definite rise in that mindset. Where
Did we ever have fights?
What is that?
Like at basketball games, baseball games, football games where these fans are brawling all the time?
Over stupidity.
Yeah, over football.
I think, I scroll through my feed and see these videos, these Karen videos, or just people just not just Karen, but like people are angry.
Yes, they are.
It's just psycho road rage videos and just
road rage is through the roof.
Fast food videos and just all kinds. Where is this coming from?
Because we've lost the humanity factor in dealing with people. We're almost dealing with people like NPCs.
Yes.
And we are the star of our own movie.
Yep.
And that's just not so. One thing that I really try to do, every fast food worker, which I've gotten to where I'm not going to be doing fast food anymore, only because it costs more to eat fast food than it does to sit down and eat somewhere. But I always look at them and smile and say, hey, thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind to them. I want to be that way towards everybody. And on days that I'm realize that I don't have the ability to be kind are the days that I kind of steer clear of people. Because you're going to have days where you don't have the right answer and you don't have the right demeanor. We were talking about this. I was talking about this with Miguel. People look for a reason to treat people bad. We've all heard some guy or some girl say, well, nobody better cut me off today because I'm having a bad. So no, what you're saying is I want somebody to do something so I feel vindicated to act like a jack donkey.
Right.
That's what we're saying. And when you remove the human factor out of things, that's like the
SPCA.
AARP or what? HEB.
Hip Hop Anonymous.
But we watch that and we see their commercials and they show the humanity side of things. They show and that's why we watch those commercials and we get a little, like a little uncomfortable to watch. Because sometimes when we get stuck in self-sufficiency and in me mode, we forget that there's people out there. A great example. I'm not wealthy by any means. I have been very blessed in a lot of areas to be able to take some extravagant trips, vacations. I've had people give me tickets and use their timeshares, different things like that. But so my daughter has got the opportunity to do a lot of things. Now that she's older and grasps things, she's like, Dad, we were talking in class and I was sharing, like places we've been and all the kids are just looking at me like, you've been to Seattle, you've been to New York for Christmas, you've been here, you've been to Disney World, you've been, and it's grasping. I mean, it's to a point that she can grasp. Not everybody gets to do what I get to do. Wow, I've really been blessed in that area. Oh. And sometimes we can get so or so unaware, and we're all about self, that we don't see the true blessings in our life and the things that are really good in our life. Mm-hmm. Because we are so caught up in us, we don't even realize some of us get to live a life that others would just give anything to have.
Absolutely. And I think my perspective on this changed right at a decade ago, when I first went to on my first mission trip to India in 2012, and then Nepal the next year, and started that whole direction of my life doing foreign missions. But my perspective changed once I started visiting third world countries. I've been to Haiti. It was an unpleasant experience. But I think what Americans fail to realize is we when we talk about I'm not wealthy, yes, actually you are. Like, you are the top 1%. I'm not trying to call you out, but I'm saying this is the mentality.
I'm a one percenter.
You are. And not just of the living population today, but our standard of living, the poorest person in America has a higher standard of living than some of the wealthiest kings and queens and princes and leaders just a couple centuries ago. Just think about modern medicine, air conditioning, lights, a cell phone to have instant information. We are super rich, super blessed, but it's the expectations game. It's comparison. We're not as rich as Bill Gates or Donald Trump, whatever. So we view ourselves as not wealthy, but my God, we have in human history. At what period of time could you just go to any corner of any road and buy all the food that you want? Anything prepackaged, cut up, cheap meat, chicken wings, pork, beef, eggs, whatever, vegetables, fruit from like tropical places that these things we take for granted. I think is what I'm trying to say to support what you were saying. We don't realize, we don't stop to think just how blessed we are for the things we take for granted. And yeah, sorry, I had to get that rant out, but we don't see it, and we expect too much. We have false expectations. We compare ourselves to others instead of just taking the time again, just to reiterate, just how blessed we are for what we have.
There is a gentleman that comes. I'm not going to name his name only because of the persecution that they're facing right now in Russia.
Yeah.
But we have a gentleman that comes that his families, they've been missionaries in Russia for 3 generations now. But one of the things and the stories that he tells, if people aren't listening to what he's saying, and he does a very good job that he never focuses on how bad things are, but he tries to show the little things that you give bring such joy. Little candies, little teeny tiny candies. They will get the little prepackaged, like, butterscotches, peppermints, and they give them out to the kids around Christmas time. These kids will take these candies, say they get 4 of them. They will break them in half and roll up the other half and just suck on that candy very slowly. And they may keep those 4 pieces that they break into 8 pieces or even smaller for 3 or 4 months. Because he said, and then I bring my kids over here, and any gas station they walk into, you can have any type of candy you want. People eat it all day long. And over there, they are just so like, oh my God, I have a piece of candy. And one of the biggest things that hit when he told me, he said, you can hand a kid 5 pieces of candy, and before he will even open one of them, it's something inherent that's in them. They stop and they look to make sure all the other kids got candy. And if the kids didn't get candy, they will go over and give them some of theirs. Yeah. But it's such a shock. And he said it, and he said, you understand the context I'm saying this in. Americans live in Disneyland, yes, compared to the rest of the world.
100%, no doubt.
And if you have never been somewhere to see, and I know there's some people like, oh yeah, people live bad, big what? No, it's the majority of the world. They do not live like we live. Right. And the best thing that people can do, and you're talking about getting involved in foreign missions, but the best thing people can do, man, get your kids on Thanksgiving morning. Go take an hour and go donate an hour of your time down at one of the soup kitchens. And not only is it allowing your kids to serve, and it's allowing them to see that there are people out there, whether it's by choice or by circumstance, that live a life that they don't know about and they would never see unless somebody teach them about it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so important for young people, and at this point, old people alike, is to just stop and consider the fact that not everybody lives like we live. What we consider like just normal life has not been that way for the vast majority of human existence. And as an extent of that, as a logical extent, we can't just assume, I should say, that it's always going to continue for perpetuity. Like the life that we live could very easily end. Not like a meteor wipe us all out. What I'm saying is like what we have is such a delicate balance and it hangs by such a thread that one little disruption in the global supply chain, one communication outage, take out satellites or whatever, it could end. And I don't think there's so many of us that are prepared for that. Obviously not physically, but also emotionally and mentally. We just have this expectation. And I guess my whole point is just give children a perspective that appreciates it, to thank God instead of saying, God, would you please bless me? Would you please make me rich? He's already blessed us. He's already made us rich. What are we going to do with it? You know, how are we going to say things? How do we structure our life? You know, I'm not trying to get anybody to take a vow of poverty and all that. That's not my thing. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like, at least be cognizant of it so that we can have proper perspective and priorities in life, teach our children. And we got on this train of thought, I believe, by talking about why are people so angry? And I think it's because they've lost perspective of just how blessed we are, of the life of luxury and ease that we do have. And everything becomes so self-absorbed and so self-focused that the slightest little disruption of our perfect little existence, the hamburger had 2 pickles instead of 1.
Burn it down.
Yeah. Somebody lasted 2 milliseconds when the light turned green before they got off their phone and drove off or whatever. All the little things that trigger us now, it's just because we lack perspective, in my opinion. We just lack perspective of what truly matters. And people are angry. They're empty, they're broken, they're hurting, and they're selfish. You know, maybe, I don't know. I'm playing armchair psychologist today on your show, but people, I don't know. There's probably a better explanation, but I just think that people are selfish.
People have become very self-absorbed. Everything is about me, bigger, better deal. I want what I want, and I want it now. I don't want to have any empathy. I'll have a lot of apathy. I don't want any empathy. I only care about my needs and what I want in the moment. And what happens is when you got little eyes watching you, somebody sent me a video the other day. You may have seen it. It's this little kid. He can't be but 5 years old, and they're playing warm-up music at a baseball game, and he goes out and he's dancing all the way up to the home plate. It's hilarious.
Oh, yes.
It is absolutely hilarious. Everybody's dying laughing, and somebody, you know, there's always going to be somebody who posts on there, well, I can't stand it when I see young athletes act that way. And I'm like, well, young athlete.
Dude's 4.
I know. He's like 4 or 5 years old.
A young athlete? Yeah. He doesn't even know the word athlete.
But secondly, our younger athletes normally just emulate what they see the older athletes do. So if you don't like the way they're acting, guess what? There's some older athletes out there, you know, that are just like the whole now kneeling during the national anthem. Then you see it carry over into little leagues. Just like when you see them spiking the football and doing these insane touchdown celebrations. Best touchdown celebration ever. You remember back when T.O. and Emmitt Smith went at it?
Oh, yeah.
That was the best.
Oh, yeah.
That was the best. But whenever you see something, a lot of times kids are going to emulate what's in front of them. So I don't care what any parent out there says. Your kids are going to learn certain things on the school bus. They're going to learn certain things. I've had Peyton come ask me questions on things she's heard on the school bus, and I'm like, I was hoping not to have that conversation for
yeah, of course,
a little while longer. But certain things, when you see a kid, when I have a 11 or 12-year-old girl who is a gossip, always starting drama, always anything, it's probably because her mom's like that. They're just emulating what they see.
So the whole kids these days, right? Every generation has that. But when we start griping about this generation, who raised this generation? You know, I don't I don't have kids, so I often forget just how old I am, and that people my age have fully grown kids.
You're old, bro.
I'm old, and it's like it's our generation. We graduated the same year. We're the same, about the same age. Like it's our generation that raised the kids that we're griping about now. So whose fault is it really? They're just doing what they've been taught, right?
Yeah. We have become a generation before our generation. School was important, but most of the knowledge that people gleaned and the things they got out of life, they got from their parents, their family members. Their mom and dads were the center, the source of their information. We've now got a place where we just hand kids off. You teach them, you indoctrinate them, and I'll feed them. Mm-hmm. And when you become somebody that is not a source of information to your kids, it goes to that Cat Stevens song, The Cat's in the Cradle. They write you out of that part of their life. They completely write. I was having this conversation the other day with somebody, and they're like, well, my kid doesn't talk to me. And I'm like, have you ever let him? And they kind of sat there, and I said, maybe you've just trained them to be a listener. So even when they're older now, when they get around you, they just don't talk. They just sit and listen to you talk because you've never been a listener. And this doesn't just go with kids. It goes with humanity. If you are a certain way to certain people and you are, if you're always negative, people are never going to go to you for the source of joy or advice on a good situation because they've completely written you out of that area of their life. Now, if they need a Debbie Downer or they need to hear something negative, they may talk to you. Same thing. When are we going to play ball? When are we going to play ball later? When are we going to play ball later? When are we going to play ball later? And then the roles reverse. Hey, son, you want to play ball? Well, later, Dad, I'm busy. He already wrote you out of that part of his life. That part's gone. And that's why being consistent is so valuable in a young person's life, not even a young person, in anything you get involved in. When you're a novice at something, those formative first years or the growing pain part session is so important that you are getting the direction that you need, because it's almost like golfing. A good coach will tell you this: don't take coaching from your friends. If you're going to play golf, go get a lesson. Here's why. If I listen to my buddies and I learn to golf and then I go get a lesson from a pro, he now has to unteach you all the bad habits that you learned ahead of time. And that's in life. A lot of times in our coping, and that's what we're really doing, we're just coping to get by, we pick up these bad habits in our coping. Coping can be difficult to say, okay, I need to get past this. But the problem is when we're coping, we normally go to the areas that we're not coping. We go to our good areas. That's the areas we're going to focus in. I don't want to focus in my bad areas. I'll just go lean on the good areas.
Yeah. I wonder how much of the problems that we're seeing, like we're seeing the fruit of the first completely online cell phone selfie generation. And I think getting back to the having time for your kids and have you actually listen to them. I can point at people in my own life, relatives even, that it's selfie with myself and my kid. My kid is a prop to show my life, to showcase my happiness and how great I'm doing. And so this is the first generation that has been raised like being viewed almost like what's that Jim Carrey movie?
Truman Show.
Yeah. And so we've created this whole generation where they just know that everything is staged, everything is phony, because as soon as you snap that perfect selfie, it's back to cussing them out and griping at them and getting back to real life. And so people are just, I think a lot of the kids today are just jaded. Like, what is real? What is reality? Everything's fake. Everything's phony, because our generation has been the one so self-absorbed. Like, see how awesome my life is. I've got beautiful kids. I've got a beautiful everything, instead of caring like in previous generations. Not that previous generations had it all figured out, but at least they were genuinely concerned about their offspring, about their physical safety,
Mm-hmm.
about their mental and emotional. I don't know. Maybe some people would argue with that. Maybe the boomers were self-absorbed, and is it the boomers that raised us? Are we millennials?
We are no, we're not millennials.
I think it depends on who you ask. I think we're a micro generation, like 78 to 83.
I call that the winners.
But anyway, so like I just think that a lot of it, what we're seeing, we haven't taken the time to parent the child and to like really be invested in their mental, spiritual, emotional well-being. They're just a prop in our life.
I would not argue. My favorite is, God, I'm just hating on women today, but
Today, it's every day.
new hair, don't care, and then their boobs are hanging out, and it's like, what do them boobies have to do with your hair? Like, come on, for real? We know what you're doing. We ain't that dumb.
But don't look or you're a creep.
Yeah, don't. How dare you look?
Right.
How dare you? I'm like, well, if you're going to put it out there, people are going to look.
I just literally don't understand that. I don't know if that's because I'm old or just so. I don't know what I would be accused of being, but I just don't understand that mindset.
Well, the accusations,
so that it's showing for everybody, but then you say you don't want people to look. That logically doesn't make sense.
but okay, let's go to that. That was a joke. At what point do we get on the morality police and tell people they can't joke around anymore? Dude, growing up, I have black friends, and my black friends would be like, "Hey man, tell me a black joke," and then I'd be like, "Well, tell me a white joke." And they're like, "Okay," and we'd sit there and we'd do that for hours. They call me Sunbeam. That's white bread, bro. Like, anything you think of, it didn't hurt my feelings one bit. We would joke around with each other constantly, but we were never disrespectful. There's a difference between being joking and being disrespectful, and I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about. There's going to be people in your life that you joke around with and say certain things that I wouldn't say in front of other people. But in becoming so self-absorbed, we've taken that to, well, that hurt my feelings. I don't like it. So therefore, everybody around me needs to hear it. That's like so many people. You go to like comedy shows now, and like somebody from the crowd's going to heckle and speak out because they don't like just shut up. Like you came to hear this person talk.
Yeah, where do we get this idea that we have the right to not be offended? And like offense is the worst thing.
Offense is good.
And again, I don't know. Maybe I'm a one-trick pony, but I see it as just complete removal. People are so far removed from real existence, and everything is so fake and online that like people don't understand that there are real dangers in life that humans actually had to face. Just a couple generations removed, the Great Depression, that was a very difficult time, to put it mildly. People were literally starving. It was, and we know nothing of real hardship, of real sacrifice now. I know I certainly don't. And so therefore we have to create drama and adversity in our life. So we manufacture it because somebody didn't say hi loudly enough when we walked in the store or whatever, just trivial stupidity, just mindlessness, but we have to manufacture it into outrage culture and take offense at everything because there's no real struggle in our life anymore.
If you get ticked off, if somebody makes you mad, you will know your litmus test of where you're at is how many people you have to get a hold of to let them know that you don't like the way she treated you. And what I mean by that is,
Right.
like, it's almost like living in that neighborhood where you have that one neighbor that's always looking out the blinds. There's a white car driving down the road. Yeah, it's the mail truck. Calm down, Karen. Like, they're supposed to be here. Like people who just look for the negative in life. And when you're dealing with somebody that they are looking for an issue or problem, what they are telling you is conflict makes me feel vindicated. Mm-hmm. If I'm in some form of conflict, there are people out there that like conflict because they want that passive aggressive behavior. So they create conflict so they can feel justified for saying what it is they really want to say. So let me get mad. So then if I get called out on what I said, it's just because I was mad. If you can't learn to control your tongue when you're mad, stay away from people for a while. Getting angry, or let me say it like this. Get mad if you're intelligent enough to have a conversation. But that's like just dealing with guys that get in a heated argument and so I'm ready to throw hands and fight you because, well, one of the things I always say to people when they act that way, like they're ready to fight me because we're having a disagreement. I'm like, dude, you need to get some intelligence. Like, you ran out of words, so you got to use your hands. Like, grow a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, grow up. You know, we're talking, and if you get to a position where you can't talk with people, what you're really saying is, I'm right and I'm going to be right, and if you don't agree with me, well, then I got to fight you. It's like, no, grow up.
Yeah, I don't know if it was caught or taught from my childhood, but at some point, I just had the philosophy of the one who is calmest, the one who stays calm is the one that's in control.
Yeah.
Like the ones that's like raging out and like bowing up and yelling and all that, they're not in control. And I'm not a fighter. I don't know anything professional or otherwise about it. But, from just watching, observing, listening to people who are fighters, like you don't want to be the dude that's just going up there just wild.
I see red, bro.
Yeah.
That's what Joe says. I see red.
Yeah. You want to step back, measure your distance, make sure that you can like know where the attack is coming from. You're prepared for it. But that requires staying calm. The one who's calm is in control of the situation. That's the way I've always seen it.
If you can be in control of your emotions, and that's going to be a struggle and a battle for everybody, is being emotionally controlled. Mm-hmm. Over emotional people that spout off, sometimes those are the people that I was talking about. They're looking for that. Well, nobody better be rude to me today. They're looking for a reason to have an altercation. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about knowing and not knowing, I was with Joe at Condition 1, and I was talking to him here in the future. I want to have him come out and work with some of the guys at the church for the security team, because not every threat you deal with may necessarily be a deadly threat. It may not be a deadly force. It just may be somebody that needs to be subdued. So I want to have him come out, and we were doing some recording, and in between, we were doing an exercise, and he's like, okay, here, let me show you something. And within, I'm talking about 15 or 20 seconds of dealing with somebody that's what they do professionally and for a career, I realized I thought I knew this much, and on a little area that I was at, that I knew this much. He took something that seemed so simple, and he knows this much off of something that is so simple, and people would look at it and be like, well, what's the big deal? We'll get down there with somebody who knows what they're doing, and everything you thought you knew goes out the window. Right. And so
everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Until they get punched in the face. Yeah, everybody's tough till they get hit in the face. But it showed me that there are so many different facets to no matter what it is you're getting involved with. There is not just a one, I know this, so therefore I know all things. No, and unfortunately now, like the evolving technology culture we're in, when you've learned something about computers or different things, in 4 months, 5 months, that's old news. Right. They've come out with something new. Heck, that's how golf clubs have become now. You come out with this newest driver, and then 3 months later, they got a new and improved driver. Mm-hmm. Well, if this one was so new and improved, why'd you have to make another one? Right. So you made a bad one on purpose? No, it's just human nature. Oh, I got to get this one because it's new. Now, I've been playing okay with this one, but I got to have that one. And not me. I've been playing like crap. I can't hit a driver to save my life. I'm about ready to sell it all.
I'll give you lessons.
And bye. I'll pass. I'm kidding. But when we get directional, get purposeful in our life, and say, "Hey, look, this is what I want to do." Starting Monday, this Monday, I'm going back to the gym,
Nice.
and I've got a little bet with somebody else. So we're gonna, for some reason that kind of like lights a fire under me. For some reason I can't light the fire myself. I have to. I've got to have like some form of competition, but I'm going to go through a couple weeks that it's going to be uncomfortable. Learning something new is not going to be easy. Learning something about yourself is way more difficult. Like this is who I am, and I've talked in times past. There's certain areas I don't go to because I realize there's a character flaw in my life, a stronghold in that area. So I'm not going to go there because if I do, I'll fail. I'll fail. I got to treat it like Jezebel, and I got to run, take off. Where's he going? Well, I don't know, but I'm just getting away from this. And sometimes being smart is knowing when to shut up and walk away.
Yes.
Prison's full of people that wish they would have done that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, you can always say something later, but once it's out, you can't get it back.
What is that saying? Don't be a fool, or keep your mouth shut, but
Oh yeah.
don't open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, where did that
one
come from. Is it like, yeah. But to go back to another quote that I do know a little bit better, a man who can't control his anger. Actually, I said I could quote it. Is it anger or his tongue? Either way, it's the same, describing the same concept. It's like a wall without cities, or a city without walls.
Did we just all both go full blown retard or something? Because
I think so.
I,
Maybe it's time to wrap up.
oh, I'm not supposed to use that word.
Oh, well. Yeah.
And we're back. I forgot we can't use the R word. I'll beep that one out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just occasionally going to put some beeps when you're talking to make it look like you're using foul language.
And blur out my mouth.
That's not a bad idea. Beep, beep, beep. All right, man.
Did we get enough for you to do
A closeout?
a hard edit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm not editing anything. It's all going to be there. Well, thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it. And